Hey guys, welcome back! I have to thank you all for your kind and inspiring messages that you've left on my last video. You guys are the best, honestly, and I truly appreciate your support and understanding. So, without further ado, let's jump right on to the questions you guys left for me. So the first question was brought up by Retro Raider. Johnny, man, thank you so much for your support. So, he asks, I know that you were very into heavy metal and played in a band when you were younger. Yeah, do you still follow the metal scene? Live shows, festivals, etc. Do you listen to modern metal bands? Yeah, I continue to follow my favorite bands and continue to support their work. And I really try. Yeah, I try to attend to festivals and live shows, but most of the times these live shows are held really far from where I live, and besides that, during the week that it's practically impossible and sometimes really expensive. So, and related to the second part of your question, yeah, I kinda stick to my favorite bands from the 80s and 90s. But there's always a song or an album from a modern band, metal band or not, that can really grab my attention and that I listen on my way to work or back home. I have to mention that I've always enjoyed video game music, and that's something that I'm also always listening to. So, mainly when driving, 1 minute I'm listening to, for instance, Megadeth, and 5 minutes later to Vampire Killer from the NES original soundtrack of Castlevania. Yeah. So, Kappa Games asks, what made you start the channel? And what's your favorite console? I've always enjoyed video games since I first played Death Chase, or 3D Death Chase on the ZX Spectrum 48K. Back in 1984, if I'm not mistaken, it was the first game I played on a ZX Spectrum and on a home computer, and I fell in love for the scene. And I was around 9 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 84. Yeah, 84. I was 9. Yeah. So since then, this form of entertainment became one of my main hobbies, apart from music and drawing. Now, fast forward a couple of decades, when my kid was born back in 2010, I started to explore a bit more this YouTube thing and started messing around with my camera, making videos about my newborn child. Around that time, I came across the channel of the gaming historian, yeah, from Norman. He inspired me with his history videos related to video games, cause that's a subject that I was always interested in, knowing stuff behind the development of those games that I used to play back in my teenage years. A few years later, after I found LGR and Metal Jesus, I thought that I could do the same, with the same quality, but centered around the ZX Spectrum and the Amiga, that are still my favorite platforms. I wanted to tell how it was like to be a gamer here in Portugal back in the 80s and 90s, and those stories would only be of interest to people outside our little country. It would make no sense to talk about this stuff to a Portuguese audience. Let's face it, in Portugal back in 2014, few were interested in this subject, and the retro gaming community is still really small in my country, and looking at the metrics on my channel, the most views comes from the UK and the United States, and only then in third comes Portugal. Just being able to reach the North American audience is a victory, cause you all know that the ZX Spectrum and the Amiga never were really popular over there, so Elder, I truly hope that I've managed to answer to your question. Elder also asks, yeah, I was forgetting about this. What's your favorite console? My favorite console. Obviously, discarding the ZX Spectrum and the Amiga. That are home computers and not consoles, as you know. I have to pick 4. The Mega Drive, that was my first console, and that offered almost arcade-perfect ports. Second, the PlayStation, that blew me away with its 3D graphics in games like Wipeout and Colin McRae Rally. Third, the PS2, that got me back to console gaming by around 2004. Yeah. And fourth, the Xbox 360, that finally introduced me to a console that could finally rival the graphical power of the PC, cause PC gaming was and still is one of my favorite systems to play games since 1993. Yeah. Time when I got my very first PC, my IBM, my beloved IBM PS1. Yeah. Thank you so much, Elder, for your questions. Now moving on to Matthew B. He asks, where do you live in Portugal? What countries have you visited and have fond memories of? And what kind of day job do you have? So I live in a relaxing place by the sea, in center Portugal, by the ocean, not sea, it's an ocean, it's the Atlantic, you know. In the suburbs of Figueira da Foz, in center Portugal, as I said, and that's a place that really gives me peace of mind, you know. It allows me to stay healthy and to relax after long weeks of hard work at my real job. Yeah. So, what countries have I visited and that I've fond memories of? Yeah, I've had the chance to and the immense pleasure to visit a ton of cities in my neighbor country, Spain. And one city that I absolutely love is Salamanca, cause in around 2005, my wife, then my girlfriend, went there on Erasmus, and I would always travel there on weekends and explore the city. I've also traveled and absolutely loved Rio de Janeiro and Búzios, yeah, in Brazil. Cancun to explore those absolutely gorgeous Mayan temples and cities. Traveled across Tunisia and discovered the setting for Star Wars Episode 1 and obviously explored the desert, cause I absolutely love the desert, as you know. The island of Mallorca for a relaxing week with my family and obviously to explore the island. And just last year we went to Disneyland in Paris. Yeah, what an amazing and magical place, I loved it. And obviously Portugal. Portugal is so beautiful, so many amazing places that I'm yet to discover, and I simply love to get on my bike and discover my country. Yeah. So, the third question, what kind of day job do I have? As for my day job, I'm a graphic designer working on the advertising area. I've learned so much on that job, stuff that I use and always apply when creating my videos. Yeah, thanks for the questions. Now, moving on. Deckard Games asks, David asks, thank you so much, man. So he asks, I've come across your comment in what I think it was a very sad video from John Hancock. Do you think that there are too many YouTubers? The question of the moment. Or not, yeah. I don't think that there's too many YouTubers. Okay? Nowadays, anyone with a Google account can be a YouTuber. Yeah. Nowadays, anyone with a smartphone can be a YouTuber. The minute you upload a video and make it public, turns you into a YouTuber. And everyone should be okay with that. Everyone has the option and the right to create their own channel. Now, if you stay consistent, if you start uploading at least once a week and start your own show, giving it a name and even turn it into a brand, now you're not just simply a YouTuber, you're a content creator. Yeah. The problem to many YouTubers or content creators out there is that nowadays there's millions of videos available and people talking about the same stuff that makes it harder and harder to be noticed. I started to upload weekly videos 4 years ago in a time when monetization wasn't a thing, and when HD cameras were still on the expensive side. 4 years passed and I'm still around, trying to improve the quality of my videos and trying to be consistent. Yeah, it's really difficult to be consistent. John Hancock was lucky, he got backed by Metal Jesus. But John's collection and knowledge are impressive, but if he didn't have that push from Metal Jesus, he would probably be around the 5K mark by now, or even less. There's so many other collectors with collections as impressive as John's, and way better video editing skills that would love to have a little help from a bigger fish in this huge ocean infested by sharks that is YouTube. Take Joel, the last gamer, as an example. That's what I call a collection, and he shows his huge passion for this hobby in every video he uploads. But there's so much hate and envy from viewers around what he has accomplished in life that starts to be ridiculous. But back to John Hancock, in that video he really managed to also gather a bit of hate from smaller channels like ours, but he simply gave his opinion and advice, inspiring others to work better and harder. He always inspired me with his honesty and kindness, and I can tell that he had a bad day and was tired when he made that video, and people shouldn't crucify him for that. Sadly, there's people that are always waiting for the right moment to strike others down, to slam their faces into the mud, you know? Every single one of us should be grateful that we can enjoy John's videos, learning a ton from him in the process. Yeah, that's my opinion. Now moving on, ZX Specky asks, man, thank you so much. One of my first subscribers. Yeah, thanks man. Do you plan to do more Specky related things? Yeah, Specky related to the ZX Spectrum. Things related to the ZX Spectrum. Sure, man, the ZX Spectrum is my most beloved system ever. It was my first system, the system where I played my very first video game. I have so many things planned centered around the good old Specky. I simply wished I had more time to work on my videos. One video that I'll be bringing in the near future is about Timex Portugal and their relation with Clive Sinclair. So stay tuned for that, all of you! A ton of research was made, so expect a documentary style of video, yeah. ZX Specky also asks, I would love to see a coverage to Mike Singleton, responsible for Lords of Midnight, etc., as a tribute. Yeah, any chance we get one? Yeah, Mike Singleton, the father of home computer gaming. Yeah, that left us back in 2012, if I recall correctly. 2012. I talked a bit about him a while back in one of my early videos, in my video related to War in Middle-earth. Yeah, do you recall that video? It was one of my early videos for the channel. But that's something that I want to explore further on a future video. Yeah, stay tuned. Now, Spaputpe Simon asks, thanks Ben, also one of my first subscribers. So he asks, what already announced and unreleased games are you most looking forward to? He also mentions that he knows that I'm looking forward for Shenmue 3 and the remasters of the first two games on the franchise. I'm also looking forward for Dakar 18. Yeah, everyone knows that. So, yeah, to be honest, I'm slowly losing interest in Shenmue 3. Yeah, I truly hope that I'm wrong. Yeah, but I'm starting to think that it will be a huge disappointment. Even so, I'm crossing my fingers and I truly hope that Yu Suzuki can really deliver a suitable and interesting sequel. Yeah. So besides the Shenmue trilogy, yeah, it's a trilogy, remaster, 1 and 2 remasters. Yeah, okay. My opinion on that remaster of the first 2 games. The first 2 games should be a gift for people that at least pre-ordered Shenmue 3. At least the first 2 games remastered should be bundled with Shenmue 3 with no charge extra, with no extra charge. So besides the Shenmue trilogy, Dakar 18 is definitely on my radar, just like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Oh yeah. These are probably the titles that I'm really looking forward to and that will be released soon. Again, Shenmue 3 is constantly being delayed, so by the time it officially launches, all the hype will have probably already vanished. Yeah. Now, Simon also asks, tell me what racing game you truly love and makes you come back for a quick spin once a year or for just 5 minutes that functions as a sort of escape just for fun, without having to worry about anything else. Yeah, you know that game. Baja, Edge of Control. There's no other game on that genre that really has the power to make me smile, even if I had the worst day of my life. Yeah. Simon also kind of asks if there's other games on other different genres that have also that power. Well, all those games that I used to play at the arcades have that power, back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, sometimes I find myself turning on my homemade arcade cabinet just for a quick go on Toki, for instance, or on Chase HQ, or even Cabal, besides many other favorites, yeah. Now, Retro PT Gamer asks Hugo, thank you so much, man. Is there a channel that inspired you and still does it to this day? Yeah, as I said before, the Gaming Historian was the one that inspired me in the first place. And yeah, besides, then later came LGR and the Metal Jesus. I don't know if they came later, I discovered them later. LGR and Metal Jesus are also huge inspiration for me. But the Gaming Historian was a huge, the biggest inspiration, because he focused on the historical aspects of gaming, something that I was always interested in. The inspiration on those 3 channels is splattered across my channel, yeah. And finally, Dunkzy said that he hopes that my real job uses my video talents. No. And I'm glad that I don't have to use my video talent. Otherwise I would be really stressed and tired of all that stuff related to video editing, that I didn't want to even hear about video editing outside my work. Creating videos, not only for YouTube, is an always learning and never-ending process, because I'm constantly discovering new tweaks and tricks on how to improve certain aspects while editing my productions. I absolutely love doing this stuff, and I wished I had more time to dedicate to my channel. Yeah. So guys, these were the questions that you guys, my biggest fans, politely asked on my last video. Thank you all so much, man, for taking a bit of time of your precious time from your busy lives to watch my videos. I'm truly humbled and I really appreciate it. Guys, thanks for giving me the opportunity to make these videos and to receive all the amazing feedback from all of you. It means the world to me, and I'm truly honored from the bottom of my heart. So thank you, and I'll see you all in Season 5. Cheers!